you can have these really beautiful aha moments and openings, but then what are we going to do with it? And that's what really matters, is who am I going to be moving forward? It's this idea that the ceremony begins when the ceremony ends, And so for me, that's really what my life has been in the last 3 weeks, like really consciously going, okay, I have these dreams and aspirations, or I have the ways that I show up in life.
Sure.
Does that bring me closer to peace? Or am I doing this because of old programming?
Jason, your host of Knocking Doors Down here. I'm excited to share this conversation I had with the amazing Joe Weatherford. But before I get into some of the things that we're going to discuss, I just want to talk to you for a second. I just want to tell you, no matter what you're going through, I know there's some hard and confusing times, not only going on in our world, but often within inside us. And I just want you to know you're an amazing person. I appreciate you, and you are worthy of all the happiness and joy that you want in your life. Please keep being you. It's enough. Now, for the awesome Joe Weatherford. She and I are both going to be speaking at the Emergence 2024 conference, taking place September 17th and 18th in Marina del Rey, California. I got details on that in the podcast description. Now, some of the things that Joe and I get into. Of course, I ask her 3 things she's grateful for today. We also discuss improving our character defects, why it's important to fuel your life with positivity versus chaos. Very few people get opportunities for total radical change in their lives. We also discuss why being conscious of our life and life decisions is so important when unconscious thoughts and feelings can drive so much of our life. Joe and I also have fun with random questions, and of course, she leaves us with some amazing final thoughts. Joe Weatherford in person. Nice to finally meet face to face. Thanks for coming here and joining me in studio.
Well, I'm enjoying you, and I'm glad I'm here. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We got so many places we could go, but you know how I start my day, so conversations start that. 3 things you're grateful for today.
Well, I'm grateful to be here in this studio. I love your work and your message, and it is so nice to connect with you in person. So grateful to be here. Grateful my family is healthy and doing well. The older I get, the more I realize what a gift that is, and I don't take it for granted. So that's my second one. My third one, I'm about to go to Yosemite. I've been there once a long time ago, but I'm really feeling this deep desire to spend more time in nature. So I'm looking forward to it.
And you're going at a good time. We were just there, and the falls are flowing, and it's a beautiful time to be there. And it's same. I've lived next to it for almost 20 years,
Yep.
but I spent about 20 years drinking, partying, being stupid. I was like, how did I not go here more?
Right?
What a gap in time. And he said something, with health, and I notice kind of there tends to be 2 paths with people in recovery. It's either those that they really embrace and kick their ass into overdrive, or it just kind of stays sort of the same. They're just not using.
Right.
And I really hold on to the other day, a guy, I forget who I was talking to, like, oh my God, you got so many problems going on. And I said, yeah, I used to just have one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It is true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, for me, I can definitely tend to be out of balance more on the overperforming side. And I have to remind myself to not get addicted to healing. At what point are you just okay? I'm always pursuing the next thing, always learning. I mean, as a coach, I want to expand my knowledge. I want to make sure I'm doing my own inner work, but it has to be in balance. I the other day walked into my room and I have all these books, just so many self-help books. And I'm like, Jesus, if I could only apply like 1% of this and
Right.
embody it, my whole life would be different. I don't need to buy another book. I don't need to buy another course. It's like, I have the knowledge. It's just like spend some time being in that.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. One of the things I've been struggling with, and a gentleman who's become my mentor. I should just say, are you my sponsor now? Essentially, his name's Mike Diamond. Not sure if you're familiar with him, but we were really talking on that. And he was asking me, well, why haven't you you had a couple people you were coaching and kind of stepped away. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm, walking the talk. And he goes, does that totally matter? Aren't you human? Don't you have moments of flaws, things that you struggle with too? And maybe embracing that and being open with those that you're working with can become a greater asset.
Yeah.
Because I struggle still with the, I guess, perfectionism, people pleasing to a certain extent. We
Yeah.
were really working on today. Him and I were discussing about my confidence, and he's like, "Don't feel bad being confident," because I still have a lot of fear with that because I was, as all of us in our addiction, probably pretty damn egotistical and
Yes.
an asshole. So I don't want to go back to that. So I connect confidence too much to that time, and I'm learning to separate it.
Yeah, that's beautiful awareness. I mean, there's that ego nonsense where we're really insecure and we're overcompensating. And then there's earned confidence,
Mm.
and I
Mm.
think that there's an important distinction between the two. It's like when you meet somebody and they just start love bombing you right away, and telling you like just how amazing you are, but you haven't earned it, so it
Right.
doesn't land, and then you're being manipulated. It's doing that internally as well, like where am I really shining, and then equally looking at that radical self inventory of where am I living out of alignment, because I think that that makes the confidence more genuine, more raw.
Yeah. Well, you bring up such a really good point. And I think, I mean, love bombing goes both ways. I know I've had it in not healthy relationships, but I see it happen more for women, especially social media, and you're a very beautiful lady inside and out. How do you now, like through the things that you've been through, just really put a stop with it? Because I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to human nature, it's kind of me, man, me let woman know, me want to mate, and
Yeah.
women attract the most viable mate. So it's a tough thing to really be conscious of and check, I would think.
Yeah, because your mind wants to soak it up and believe it.
Right.
So for me, it comes to real discernment and intuition. And that is a new experience for me to
Mm.
go, okay, how does this feel in my body? What does truth feel like? And what is that resonance when somebody tells me something that is genuinely authentic? How does that feel in my body? Versus the other, which is, that energy is I want something from you, i.e., sex, right? And it lands differently.
Yeah.
There's just a different feeling. And then also just going, okay, what is the reality of this? Then you've got to intellectualize it a little bit and go, how much does this person know me? What is their intention in saying? So bring the mind and the heart on board and then come from that place. But when you've been love bomb so much, it's just an instantaneous pattern recognition of, okay, I know exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, I think I got hip to that. I got not only intelligent with it concerning others, but with myself.
Yeah.
Like, oh, am I being a little thirsty here? What exactly am I doing? Well, I guess behind it, like you said, what is my intentions? And that's become such a vital thing for me. And I think everyone should in life examine what are my intentions? And how are they driven by my values?
Yeah, absolutely. Where does it come from? Intentions and then also expectations, of self and others. I kind of started seeing somebody as very new, so I'm just very much in this process right now of having to examine an anxious attachment style, which I so have. I was like, I don't have that anymore. Oh no, I definitely
Right?
do. I'm like, it's been 9 hours, I haven't heard from him,
Yeah.
like calm down,
Yeah.
simmer down, talk about thirsty. But it's just cool because I think it's the relationship that we have with the process that matters. Like if
Mm.
you can use these opportunities to really explore, parts of ourselves and old patterns, doing some of that inner child work, because that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, I'm not making this other person responsible for me, which is a lot of pressure and nobody wants that. I'm barely responsible for myself. I sure don't want to put that on somebody else, but again, when I'm playing with it and allowing it and using it as this huge opportunity for growth, then all of a sudden it becomes fun. And I mean, sometimes really painful, of course,
Sure.
doing that inner work. But looking at these supposed challenges that arise as opportunities and just remembering that that's what our emotions are. They are messages
Mm.
for us to do the work. And if we choose to be the observer of those emotions rather than become them, right? Like anytime I've gotten in trouble in my life, I have become my anger
Mm.
rather than the observer of my anger. And okay, now what do I do with this? And
Right.
just being more at choice and, not that reactivity, but just really responding in ways that are for the greatest, highest good. Now, I say this, I say this shit, no problem. It's
Right.
different when you're in it,
Yeah.
and I'm by no means saying I do it perfectly. I like that you mentioned relatability earlier. I had this experience. I was at a Eckhart Tolle seminar once, and I mean, that man is just pure enlightened. There's just no other way to say it. And I'm listening to him and I'm like, dude, I can't even relate on any level to you. He made this statement. Someone asked him the key to happiness, and he said, I just don't mind what happens to me.
Hmm.
And I understand the brilliance of that, and I'm working towards it. And it was just so far
Sure.
from my reality. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit here and soak up as much as I can, but I can't even fathom what that would be like.
Yeah. Wow. That's like some Jedi Knight right there. And I had this awesome lady on recently, Nina Sussman Pogue. She was an Olympic athlete. I mean, with Mary Lou Retton, and then had an injury,
Nice.
and then and it was funny because much like this, we got into the conversation that needed to happen at the time, and be prior, she's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, my anxiety's kind of spiked." She goes, "Oh, perfect. This is gonna be great." I'm like, "What the f are you talking about? This is gonna be great, dude." And she does a lot with people with timeline. And I realize for me, a lot of that, what you're saying is what was shared at that conference is I'm treating my timeline as if this point after our conversation here that it's already written. And it's not, they're blank pages in the book.
Yeah.
And I don't get to dictate because, yes, some bad has happened. People go back, listen when Joe was on last time. We both opened up and, got a little bit of tears in the eyes about the that we went through. That sucks to go through.
Yeah.
Like genuine points in our life where you are a victim. But we talked about breaking that. And now I'm trying to release myself from that outcome. I don't get to decide it. I should be better about embracing it.
Well, and thank God we don't get to decide it because sometimes what we have the capacity to envision for our life is so small in
Mhm.
comparison to the vision that God holds for us.
Yeah.
So thank God we're not limited by our own control. I mean, if you would have asked me 5 years ago if I would have sold everything, quit my university job, gotten divorced, be living in Mexico, literally in paradise, at no point could I have ever fathomed that life. And now I'm just so grateful that I don't have control. I'm like, okay, yeah, what's next?
Yeah, that's you can't write it kind of. But how do you then think though that how long are you sober now?
12 years.
I love it.
Yeah, 2 days ago, 3 days ago now.
Congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
love it, Joe. Thank you for leading the way for people like me. I love that's one of the things I still love about meetings, especially like chip night, going and seeing the people that collect one. There's like there was a dude the other day, 30 years, and then there was a guy with us that got his surrender chip on 5 days.
Yeah.
And it was like that beauty of both those spectrums and not knowing where it's going to go for them. It's an incredibly exciting thing. Boy, I had a really good point and then I got sidetracked. Where was I going with that? Yeah, I think it's really embracing the unknown. Like so much of life is unknown. I wouldn't have, it was funny. I spoke at a high school
I don't know, a couple months ago, and these kids like, what's some of the craziest things that's happened to you in your sobriety? And I hadn't really thought about it like this
Yeah.
podcast alone. And in my head, I didn't say this to the class. I didn't say, "Oh, holy," but I went, "Wow, I got to essentially be on camera with one of my childhood idols. When I played Little League baseball, excuse me, I was a pitcher, and my nickname was Wild Thing, all because of Charlie Sheen's
Mhm.
character in those movies." And it was like, it's the first time that had really hit me. Like, I think I even said to my mom, I'm gonna be on camera with him someday, or something along those lines, or
Yes.
do a movie. And maybe it didn't pan out that way. It's just like, it was the first time I reflected, like, wow, holy heck, that is weird. Like how stuff
Yes.
happens, I don't know.
Yeah, then it's like, is it a premonition or is it a manifestation? You know, because
Right.
like, what if a lot of things are written, and we're feeling in to their potentiality even without knowing it, and then the game becomes, how do we collapse time into that? I mean, I do think that manifestation is such a powerful tool. Again, it has to be anchored in truth, even going back to the self-love and the self-love bombing, right? It requires all of you to be on board, but having those goals, having those visions, it's so important. But I think a lot of times we get lost in the thing, like the achievement or the material thing, and we forget that it doesn't matter. Not to take away from those things, that's all great, but it's who you are as you are achieving that goal.
Yeah.
It's who you are as you're buying that thing that we really want. And we get lost in these blueprints, I'll be happy as long as. But I'll use body image just because it's been coming up a lot with my clients lately. Would you rather be a super hot chick who's miserable, but like just drop dead gorgeous, or, some kind of frumpy middle-aged whatever, but who's truly, truly happy
Right.
and loves her life? It's so interesting how
It-
we put these little
yeah.
markers, and it's like we spend so much time trying to achieve these illusions, of stories that I'll be happy when, instead of just eradicating the blueprint, which
Yeah.
is happiness is available to you now. And the more that we can drop into that, the more successful we will become,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Have you dug into the archives of past Knocking Doors Down podcast episodes? The Knocking Doors Down podcast archive is available to you for free. Check it out. Here's a snippet from when Charlie Sheen was on the podcast.
There's another thing to consider that's just practical and real and true and rampant. Fentanyl.
Yeah.
Fentanyl. You keep fucking around with street drugs these days. I mean, there's a 90% chance that it's gonna have fentanyl. And there's a 90% chance you're not going to survive it.
This episode and so many more in the Knocking Doors Down archive. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumb up, leave a comment, and share with somebody else that you know will get value out of the Knocking Doors Down podcast.
Oh, I remember the point that I was going to bring up now. I watched the horror movie remake of Fantasy Island. If you remember the TV show Ricardo Montalban with Tattoo, the plane boss. So he did a horror movie version, and the main character, Michael Pena, his character, he says to him, your fantasies you have to play it out all the way, but it's not going to go the way you think. And so
Love
that
it.
really makes me think about it like, yeah, okay, so now you're this greater law of attraction, man or woman, whatever it is, what around that has your life created? Has it bettered your life?
Yeah.
Has it made it worse? I've been through the process where I had some neighbors, beautiful people. The wife wanted to get into better shape. The husband did not, ended up in a divorce. And now, even though looks great, but still has now gone through relationship, it didn't fix those internal things, let
Right.
alone what her attraction energy is,
Yes.
And I think it's such a such a weird thing to examine,
Yeah.
like I had to accept at some point, I am never going to be built like Hulk Hogan, and that's okay. It's just,
The way it is.
I'm 185 soaking wet at 6'3". It's just how it is. And that's okay. That it just, yeah, it doesn't determine my worth to myself, to others, let alone define my values.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and just returning to that love and acceptance, and then within that confine, how do I have the greatest life, you know? And that's where we can then prioritize health, prioritize movement, prioritize how we eat and fuel this body, this temple. But it comes back to intention, right? Now it's not, I need to starve myself so I can look a certain way and then become happy. It's, I choose to eat in a way that is loving and kind to my body because I appreciate this body and this opportunity to have this human experience. I mean, it's really amazing that we get to be here. It's also hard. Like, it's also just unbelievably difficult, but you know, we get to be in this body, we get to eat sushi, we get to make love, we get to, you know, go to Disneyland, like whatever it is, like we get to have this experience. And so it's important to take care of ourselves because addiction, chronic pain, like these things will rob our joy. It will rob our life, our experience. And, you know, I think about this guy getting this 5-day chip, right? Like we don't know what that's going to look like moving forward. But what I do know is this: we don't get a lot of opportunities for radical change, most of us, right? I mean, if you're 400 pounds and you drop the weight, that's like a massive life-changing experience. You know, maybe if you were in prison and a criminal and then you get out and then you clean up your life and build something meaningful, that's a huge experience. And then the other one is with addiction.
Yeah.
Like we can see it as this awful, grueling process, or we can call it what it is, which is the greatest opportunity. And it's magnificent when you see people's life change. And it is important. I mean, you talk about being the dry drunk, right? Like I just stopped using. I mean, that's a Band-Aid on a compound fracture. And then you're just sober and miserable. Like nobody wants that. Now for me, I was like, okay, if my life doesn't really get good, of course I'd be back using.
Yeah.
That's why I used in the first place.
Yeah, I did that. I'm a testament to that. Like, nah, it was nah, I don't need help or the wisdom. I've got this. And yeah.
Yeah. And it's, you know, for me, it was crazy because we talk about denial, and I have an interesting relationship with it. I know that we can be in denial, but I think more so the issue is we know there's a problem, but we don't want to do anything about it. We're not ready to. We're afraid we will fail. You know, there's all these different markers. And even talking about manifestation and achieving dreams, we have to be careful with that as well, because when I'm fantasizing about my accomplishments, the brain is releasing a lot of chemicals that can almost make me feel as if it's happened. Now, in one hand, that's great. And the other, that can make us lazy, you know, because then it's like the follow through and really becoming that. And so we see that, you know, in early sobriety with that pink cloud, you know, where everything's great. And thank God we have it, you know,
Yeah.
because those first 30 days would absolutely suck if we didn't have some euphoria associated with it. But it's like, yeah, just remember the goal is long term. So 5 years from now, when your life just fell apart and you don't have this motivation, this euphoria, this glow, like now you need to get good at being like miserable. Like, and that's a skill that we just don't teach. It's like, get really good at not being okay, and you'll always be okay.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, this is a feeling, this is temporary. And just remember, again, it's a message, and it's not our emotions that hurt us. Our meta emotions can really hurt us, how we feel about how we feel. That's one thing. But then it's the stories that we start telling about the way that we feel. And so when we can really get present with it and we can identify all of those looping stories, and what's so difficult is so many of them are unconscious, you know, but there's a level of presence that we need to bring to the table, and honesty, and just as Gabor Mate says, that compassionate curiosity of exploration. Because when we can identify the stories, we can absolutely survive the emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like I've said, I used to explore with chemicals. Now I explore myself.
Yes.
And yeah, it's so true. You know, the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves, because it's still, And it probably will all be. And I think that's some of the fallacies maybe that people come when it comes to personal growth or motivation and inspiration, because all that, like you said, once the chemicals stop being there, sometimes it's just about the grind to get stuff
Yes.
done, that you have to have that. Because
Yes.
eventually it wears off.
Yeah.
Like it does. I remember years ago when I used to lift weights, people. And it's like the vein in the arm shows up and it's like, oh yeah, all right. That's only going to last so long.
Yeah.
All these things with these chemical rushes and things that we get in there for a reason.
Yes.
They're only going to last so long.
I like to say you need to know your North Star.
Mm.
And the example I like to use is my favorite show is Yellowstone. I love it, and so if you haven't seen the show, everything they do is to survive on that ranch. Like
Right.
they are going to protect that ranch no matter what. So every decision they make, does this protect the ranch or not? So it's like when you know your North Star, then when those chemicals are gone and when lives and all these different things arise, when you know your North Star, you will make decisions. Does this bring me closer or farther away from that? And what I didn't realize until my most recent experience with Iboga is mine is peace.
Mm.
Does this bring me closer to my peace or take me out of it? And that's challenging for me because I have a very strong fight mentality. I've been saying this mantra to myself over and over again, which is from Course in Miracles. In my defenselessness, my safety lies.
Mm.
So it's like, everything in me wants to defend, everything in me wants to prove my point. Like I'm still 2 years later, dealing with legal stuff with my ex-husband, it's a great place to practice, right? But in my defenselessness, my safety lies because my North Star is my peace. And so whether it's business or relationships or, these little fights I want to have, I choose my peace. And for a lot of us that have dealt with addiction, peace did not feel good.
No.
And it's hard to explain that to people. It's like, if I look at that and it's black, but you see white, it just, peace can feel like chaos. And for me, peace felt like boredom. And for me, boredom, that is the thing I will do anything to avoid. And I had somebody say to me once, only boring people get bored. And I was like, well, right off. And it's true,
Yeah.
But it's, for me, the absence of chaos has not felt good. And I've been really, over the last 5 years, especially, that's been my journey, is to learn to appreciate and thrive in peace. But when we come from that chaos, it's hard and it's a withdrawal from the chemicals.
Yeah.
Even the way we bond with people so often is over dysfunction,
Yeah.
and it's trauma bonds. So creating meaningful connections, absent of that.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
Well, and that was a really challenging thing for me to embrace, was that appearance of boredom in healthy interactions.
Yeah.
Like the reason that maybe that person, and I went through this and I'm pretty sure you did too. The reason that person is no longer sexually stimulating or this other individual isn't because they're not activating my nervous system.
Right.
There's not some sort of the thing that's the attachment to the chaos and trauma that goes way the back. I mean, go listen to the episode with Joe if you want to know more about what happened there. And people that listen frequently, my story. And that was a really hard thing to break through. A really challenging thing. The delusion of trauma bonding, like, oh my God, you get me, I get you. We went through similar stuff. We're like this, and come to find out, no, there's nothing here. There's just chaos. That's all there is.
It's just trauma.
Yeah. And you're just replaying it all out. And it appears to be that way. Like,
where you are now may not be where you came from. The choices you make today may spiral out of control or spin you in the right direction. Discover a riveting, true story of how Carlos Vieira nearly destroyed his life and lived to tell about it. Stand up, stand firm, believe, make it happen, and live through the madness. Knocking doors down along the way. And don't miss others telling their powerful stories on our podcast. Visit kddmediacompany.com.
I was reading more about, our heightened states in our sexual activity, and oftentimes those things that can be there, and how much traumatic events can be stimulating. So if people wonder, oh my God, why is that couple still together? They're terrible. They treat each other. It's this, this release, rescinding of these chemicals, huge release again. It's no different than like taking that toot off the back of the toilet at the strip club. It's like, whatever. It's very similar.
Well, we eroticize our pain as a survival mechanism. And when done intentionally, that can actually be a beautiful practice to learn to do that. But when we do it unconsciously, then we're just stuck in these dynamics that are just, anybody that's not in it can look at it and go, the hell are you doing? But it comes down to those chemicals. And as soon as that person pulls away that drama, that chaos and all of it, then there's the boredom, right? And then this doesn't feel good. So then we have to do something to create more of that heightened experience again. And then we're just constantly chasing that. And it's through pain and it's through fighting. And it's just, oh my God, I'm so glad to be out of that.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful. But it's difficult. It's like when you've eaten like your whole life and your body is used to burning sugar for energy, and then you start eating well, your body doesn't know how to turn that into energy. So it's just like when we are fueled by chaos and and then all of a sudden get peace and love, there is an acclimation process that needs to happen before we're able to effectively utilize it. It's crazy just to watch it unfold.
And you just went to Nicaragua?
Yes.
Where'd you go?
Nicaragua.
Tell me about the experience.
Oh my God. Okay. So let me first say I had been called to Iboga. I wanted to do the natural versus the synthesized Ibogaine. But I had calling to that for a few years, and it just wasn't the right time. I didn't meet the right person. With any kind of medicine journeys, setting, intention, who's holding space is so important. So it just wasn't the right time. But then fast forward to a year ago, my very dear friends lost their son, and he had gotten some drugs on the dark web, tested them for fentanyl, so trying to be as responsible as you can in that situation. He was a beautiful young man. Took these pills. His roommate said, he didn't feel well, kind of nauseous, but there was no indication that this young man was overdosing. None. I mean, they had Narcan in the house, but there was nothing. And he just never woke up. And it turns out he actually passed away from a new synthetic opioid that just hit America. It's like 400 times stronger than fentanyl. No, I need to look up the name. It's some, 17 letters. But now there's so many of them. That's just what's so sad. But it really, really inspired me to look at Iboga because we need different treatment options available, period. And when you look at the opioid crisis now, what's amazing to me about that is it can get anyone, there is nobody that is safe from that. Socioeconomic, intelligence, none of those things matter. Anybody can get hooked on opiates. And right now it is just impossible to get anything that is safe. And you can't test for things because they're always changing at one molecule. You have to know what you're testing for. So anyway, that drew me to Iboga. And then also my own, I don't drink anymore, but I still have addictive things, I'm like, give me 18 cups of coffee. There's never enough. I can do it with food. I can do it with sex. I can do it with, lots of different ways. So I don't want to say it was solely about being able to talk about this for other people. I knew I needed to do my own work, but all the research is showing it could be incredibly powerful for addiction. So I'm like, let me go try it. Because I don't like talking about things that I haven't done myself. Sure. It's important to me. So I get to Nicaragua and it was cool. It was so cool. I'd been to Costa Rica quite a bit. So I loved being there. I was on this tiny, like just little part of Nicaragua that's just surfers. There's like no ATMs. It's just a different way of life, right?
Right.
So I did 10 days without my phone, which was amazing in and of itself. I didn't wear makeup. I didn't give a what I look like. I didn't shave,
Right.
So it really was like taking the computer and unplugging it for 10 days. But wow, that medicine. So we did a small dose of it on one day just to see how we did with it and to allow the facilitator to gauge sensitivity and then also just to start connecting with it. But we had to lay flat on a yoga mat in complete silence for 8 hours. And I was like, dude, this is not gonna go well.
That doesn't sound fun to me right there.
I mean, I meditate and I do all that, but not for 8 hours. So I knew that alone was going to challenge me. It was actually exceptionally beautiful. And on a low dose of the medicine, the introspection was pretty gentle. And it was like, okay, let's just look at your life. There was a lot around my marriage. Former marriage. I want to call it my failed marriage, but I actually don't believe that. Like,
I think failure is when you don't learn from something.
Right. So and it was beautiful and chaotic and all of it, that there was so much reflection around that, but it was gentle. And I was like, okay, I can see where I was out of alignment. I can learn those lessons. The flood dose, the full dose is 24 hours lying still on a mat in complete silence. 24 hours. So 7 p.m., we take the medicine. Oh my God. So I knew from the little bit of research I had done, because I didn't want to know too much. I was afraid I wouldn't do it. I knew it was going to be a very inward journey. So a lot of medicines, ayahuasca, psilocybin, things will expand you out. It's more of that spiritual experience. I knew that iboga was a very inward, internal, very body grounded here and now. So what happened was, first, it was like going into a filing cabinet. Everything that I've done wrong or been out of alignment. Here's where you lied, you cheated on this person, and then just feeling the full repercussions.
Shit.
It was brutal. And then it went into every negative story I've ever had about myself all through childhood till now. So that was probably 8 hours of it. Just here, you're a piece of shit, you're too fat, you're blah, blah, blah. So it was just gnarly. And then the next phase, I was like, oh, okay. It was more future. And I thought, well, maybe I'll have a baby. And it was like, you can't have a baby. You'll be one of those mothers that kills your baby. I mean, it was the darkest, worst you could ever imagine. It was like, you should have never left your ex-husband. No one will ever love you. That was the best you could have done. I'm saying gnarly for 24 hours. And so when it was finally over, I like sat up and I'm just like, what the hell was that? And the facilitator's like, look, it was a rite of passage. You completed it. Don't try to make meaning of it. And I was like, well, okay. So
that's a lot to not make meaning of.
Yeah, I was just like, all right. I mean, I literally have never been in that much agony. But it was 2 days later, I was talking to him again. And he shared with me, he said, I had the same journey as you, but I had to face 10,000 judges. He goes, it was brutal. It was just the worst. He said, but then I was in Whistler and I went to this big party. So if you can just imagine opening the doors of this massive party, there's music, tons of people. He goes, but I walked in and my mind was quiet. And I was like, yes, that's what's happening. The second voice is gone. The one that's like, oh, she looked at you weird. Why did you wear that? How long are we really going to stay? Are these even our friends? What are we doing here? It's the one that never shuts up is gone. And I was like, oh my God, you just put words to what I am experiencing.
Wow.
First time in my life. And I've had amazing experiences. Nothing like this. It's quiet.
Wow.
And now it's 3 weeks later. It's still quiet. It's almost like giving that voice center stage to make all the unconscious stories conscious.
Sure.
It's hard for me to believe that a part of me was saying, shouldn't have left him. No one will love you like that. But that was what was going on. I just couldn't access it.
Right.
But those stories, the unconscious stories, are driving so much of our life. So to spend 24 hours in absolute hell, to give that voice center stage and listen to it, and then to have the peace that I have now, I get where it's so powerful for addiction, because that voice is what drives cravings.
Oh,
Well, go ahead and do it. You've earned it.
yeah.
Or life is so miserable, you will do anything to shut that voice up.
Yeah. Well, you're never better than the person that you are using this, so you might as well use it.
Yeah, you're such a piece of why
Yeah.
are you even trying?
Yeah.
You know? And so to shut that voice up is like, now I'm at choice.
Mm.
It's so unbelievable. And then also, you know, that 24 hours was the most intense 12-step work anybody could ever
That's
do.
what
That
I was thinking.
radical self-inventory and, you know, and some of it wasn't true. Like, obviously, I don't believe on any conscious level that that marriage was the best I could do. I know that isn't true, but it was good for me to show up and explore all my stories and to really take ownership for all the I did do. You know,
Sure.
I mean, that marriage was and I was 50% of it, you know, like I can own all of that. And it was good to go in and do that. But from an addiction standpoint, add that, you know, to the fact that the medicine almost completely eradicates the withdrawal process from opiates. It is a beautiful, beautiful option. Now, it's also extremely important that people do it under medical supervision.
Right.
So do your research always with anything.
Don't get to how you used to get your blow from Joe on the corner. Okay.
So order some Ibogaine on the dark web. No, it's so important. And also, even with the miraculous shifts that I have felt in myself, you know, if I go back into my own old patterns, you know, wherever you go, there you are. So it's like you can have these really beautiful aha moments and openings, but then what are we going to do with it? And that's what really matters, is who am I going to be moving forward? It's this idea that the ceremony begins when the ceremony ends, you know? And so for me, that's really what my life has been in the last 3 weeks, like really consciously going, okay, I have these dreams and aspirations, or I have the waves that I show up in life.
Sure.
Does that bring me closer to peace? Or am I doing this because of old programming that I was supposed to, that society, my parents, whoever put that on me? Like, what's true? What's mine? I mean, so to me, Iboga is truth medicine. And it's something that we really need to explore as options for people, because what we're doing is not working.
No, that's too long of that. I won't even go off on all my perspective. There's too much of the that's not working to help the suffering addict. And thank you for bringing up there at the point, in case people missed it. This thing now, if anything, over the last 4 years, of what's happened with the opioid fentanyl crisis and what we got, it is sadly the proof that this thing hits any and everyone. It's not the hobo that you think about there, or the homeless guy. No, this is the people next door to you.
Yeah.
And we have to have a time now where we're becoming more vigilant. Because tell me what you think of this. I thought about this in some of my ways and things of the past, like, you know, messaging girls on social media or something, because this relationship was and needed to have someone in line before that, when that one ended, you know?
Right.
And it always came out. And I think there's so much with what I think it's getting harder to people. You and I were talking before we hit record, and we won't get into politics, but I was watching this thing with Dr. Phil talking to Trump and these other news things. And there's a chief of police that I've worked with through something else that I do. And here he is hitting the internet because he had an affair, and I own it, it's my fault. All these, I think it's getting to a point where it's going to be harder to sell people on. Like, you've had clients for a long time because of what you do, and you do it right. Well, again, aligned with your values. Whereas, the thing I got out of you that I was like, this is going to become someone that's going to become a friend, because it was never, I'm the answer to all your problems. I think people are catching on that is all
Absolutely.
like you're presenting here. This is an option that worked for me. Explore it potentially. And I think that's a valuable thing to bring to people now.
We outsource our power in a million different ways, whether it's religion, the Church of Modern Medicine. Oh, daddy government's going to take care of me. We relinquish our power to things outside of ourselves all the time. Oh, this therapist or coach or whoever. And really, for me, when I'm working with people, it is helping them reconnect with their own source of power, because we all have it. And I mean, what's cool about long-term sobriety is you have evidence of it, which is important to me. Like, I want to meet people who have done it and embody it. And by no means is my life perfect. I mean, anybody that's followed me for any amount of time knows I had the most epic spiral breakdown of my probably entire life, sober, last November.
Right.
And so, I am a student and I am learning just like everyone. But what I do know is that I am responsible for my life, and I live that. And I don't take credit for people's successes, and I don't punish myself for their either. It's like, you do you. And it's great because then you really, you attract clients, you attract friends, you attract partners that have that mentality. And it's really beautiful. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. And that's what I'm really finding. And it's cool even starting this new relationship. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm like, wow, I really feel like I found somebody that's my equal, and it's beautiful because I get this reflection of even who I am and of my values and how I show up in our communication. And it's absent of any drama. And when I get my feelings hurt and I can feel that little, she's 13, that 13-year-old part of myself that wants to throw an absolute tantrum, then I go and I do my work, and I don't bring that into our relationship. And it's really phenomenal. And it's totally new for me to be doing it this way. But it's like, oh, this is the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it really, at the end of the day, how hard is it to communicate our feelings, even, and I'll do this often with Cassie, is I'm feeling something. I don't know what it is right now. Just please don't take it personal and give me a little bit of space. And when I get to it, because it's not a secondary emotion. I'm not feeling anger or anything.
Yeah.
There's always something underneath anger, right?
Right.
What is it that Yoda said? Fear leads to hate. Hate leads to anger. Anger leads to suffering. Something like that. I forget what the secondary emotions, all of them are. But it's my responsibility to communicate that so that I don't blanket her with that, let alone expect her to solve it.
Absolutely.
Like, being that, and then she'll do like, can I do anything? It's like, no, thank you, hon. Just thank you for being there.
Yes.
And it's so important for us to get aligned with that. Like, it's interesting. You said your breakdown, the biggest one you ever had. And I would say that's awesome because that is in your sobriety, because if not, it would have been non-existent.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable experience, though, to be sober and in that much pain. And what happened is my nervous system dysregulated and I couldn't get myself back together. And I'm always okay. Like, I go through stuff and I'm unhappy or I'm scared or I'm angry, but I always have this sense I'm okay. And it was the first time I was like, oh my God, I am not on any level okay. And it was about 20 days that my nervous system was completely snapped. and I lost 20 pounds. I wasn't sleeping. It was absolute misery. It was awful. I mean, that's kind of what made Iboga like, okay, I know how to do this,
Sure.
because I sat in it. And for me, I have ways that I will get myself out, and I took all those distractions away. I shut off dating apps, no random hookups, no traveling, no, I'm going to go do this retreat, nothing. I was like, sit in your and learn to deal with this, and do not leave this room until you're okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, what a beautiful, horrific opportunity for me to really transform. That was one of my greatest level ups though, after getting sober. And the thing, I went through a breakup, but the same day that I went through a really bad breakup, I found out my mom had relapsed. And that is the thing that took me out. I spiraled. I didn't even realize the codependency and enmeshment that I had with my mom. And my story was, I'm okay as long as she's sober. Like that was a very deeply rooted belief in me. So now she's not. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Even me, I was like, my mom and I have always been so codependent and enmeshed. I'm like, am I next? I mean, there was so many thoughts that I couldn't even imagine. And I'm like, well, what does this mean for us? And it's, oh God, it just brought up so much of my early childhood wounds and trauma around that. I had to go back so far and really do the work, but I did. And talk about trust and confidence, just to bring it full circle. I'm like, this is incredible that I did this. And it's hard for me to feel proud of myself. I come from a world of exceptionally high standards. The bar is always 10 feet above me, no matter what I do. So what a gift to be like, damn, good job. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And I say that with a lot of humility. But then also what a gift for my clients, like so again, this awful thing that happened, but then the opportunity. And we talk about this all the time, and every spiritual teacher, any self-development person, but when you actually use it as an opportunity to thrive, it's like, don't waste it. Don't waste this pain, don't bypass it either. Because that's a huge thing. We're not meant to be happy all the time. Can you imagine how boring life would be? That's like playing a video game where there's no bad guys, no ways you could die. You just pass every level. Who the wants to do that? No, it's like these challenges give us that opportunity for that earned confidence of I did that. And we need those opportunities. So yeah, we got to watch the bypassing. It's just all the time out there. Let me just put my best life on social media. It's like, bitch, we all know you're lying. I don't know what's happening, but there is something behind that facade.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can't lie anymore. People know it.
Yeah, and it's the danger too of people comparing your insides to other people's outsides with it,
Yeah.
Like I had a really cool thing. I'll share that next, but also what I'm getting out of what you shared, going through so much of that suffrage, is our suffrage when we share becomes of service to others. And I mean, these are early principles that we start to learn as 12-step people and everything, but it really is beautiful. And if you haven't yet, I know you're going to come across someone and you're going to be like, man, I was there. And when you let them know that, wow, there is a resonance with others, there is community. I am not alone, even though we are, but we aren't.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really beautiful opportunity that oftentimes people that aren't like us, that go grateful alcoholic or grateful addict or whatever it is, may never get.
Yeah. There's beauty in sharing our story. But it does make me think, like, if you're going through something really atrocious, like, grieve with reverence. You know what I mean? There's a way in which we can hold ourselves through the process that will greatly expand our consciousness. And it's like being with it, having the courage to feel it, but being present, eliminate those distractions, pain does get us present. I mean, we see this when there's tragedies. I mean, 9/11 was a great example. They've done so much studies of people at that time. There was so much connectedness and presence and people showing up in miraculous ways. And actually, their baseline happiness increased during that tragedy because they were here and now and real. And so it's like grieving with reverence, feeling it all, holding yourself in such a way that you are with this experience rather than being taken by it.
Yeah.
It's really different.
How did you, let me ask you about that disconnecting from distractions process. What did that? I mean, I know you made the joke, dating apps or whatever. What in our society now, the easiest way to get distracted, right?
Oh
One
my
of the
God.
So
Yes.
it's that being thirsty. Like, I remember I did that for a while, never went on any of the dates, but oh, you're so handy. Yes, thank you. Yeah, and I'm sure I made up a bunch of about myself that wasn't true, whatever, and but what for you, what was the process? How did you really get yourself to be able to sit in it?
It was, I won't even take credit for it. I was in that level of terror. I mean, my entire body was on fire and I couldn't even distract, that was the first part of it. It was just done for me. It was like just sitting up in my room was all I could manage. It was insanity. When I started to kind of come back together a little bit, that's where those distractions really came in. We'll just do this thing. We'll just plan a trip. We'll go on these apps. And I just had this strong sense of knowing, and that's something I have spent the last couple years, especially like really honing my intuition, giving my space, like into that seat of knowing within me. Like I'm going to get quiet and I'm going to listen. So that skill, and I'm so glad I practiced it so much because in that moment, it was still available to me. And I just knew, don't do it. Like, just don't. We cognitively know better.
Yeah.
But it was a deep knowing, like, you're going to be okay. And this is important. And then also, if you bypass it now, it's going to come back later. And I was like, well, I'm already 2 weeks in. Let's just finish the process. I don't want to do this again. Because we don't get away with it.
Yeah.
We don't. We cut corners, we cheat, and we pay for it later. So there was also that knowing of like, let it play out. And it was hard. It was really hard. And then sometimes it just comes down to discipline. It's like we were talking about before. It's like, when you don't have the feel-good chemicals, when you don't have the euphoria, when you don't have the motivation, sometimes you just have to rely on good old-fashioned discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, something I carry into my life now. That's why I have that Opal app blocker on my social media apps, and it locks me out of my phone for 8 hours a day because I can't do it on my own, and I need to practice. It's like, oh, I went to the gym once 3 months ago. Why am I not happy with my body? It's like, you got to do that all the time.
I know.
And so it's important too. This is a really important part of the whole process. When you are feeling good, capitalize on it. When it's easy to do those practices, when it's, no problem at all to sit and meditate and learn and grow and expand, fill your cup. Because when life's, you want that in the reserves. You need to have some automatic functioning that is going to help you. And it can be something as simple as making your bed every morning. Start with a win. I mean, there are some things, 6 deep breaths, like all these things that we just kind of like, whatever. It's like, no, that'll save you in a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It's the little tiny details that make the most impact. And that's the other thing that we forget. I love the studies that show people can have a horrific injury, like an amputation, or they can have something amazing, like win the lottery, And within 6 months, their baseline happiness is what it was.
Yep.
So we're always chasing these big, expansive dreams. But it's like, if we can just do little things to incrementally increase our happiness, that's the real win.
Yeah.
Because that is our set point. So it's a good question to ask, what is your set point?
Yeah.
How can I increase it? What would one little click up look like?
Yes.
What would get me there?
That raising of our baseline. This is what it was before. Oh, my goodness. Now I'm up here. But the reality is, accept that then is going to become your baseline. and the chemicals and all that's like, I'm not getting the same thing anymore. No, you're not going to.
Yeah.
You're not going to. And I think I wholeheartedly agree with you that discipline is incredibly important. I had a younger guy ask me, do you feel temptation anymore? No, I don't. I don't have cravings or anything else. And I said, but what I will tell you is prior to relapse now, it's a choice.
Yeah.
Because my consciousness about it all has been pulled forward. It's out here in front of me. Like for me, literally, where you and I are sitting now, because this isn't my facility, there is booze right here on the other side of this wall. There's a fridge that's got beer in it and all these things. You know what I do when I'm here frequently? I walk in the fridge. It doesn't even cross my mind. I grab my water. I come in and I do my work.
Yeah.
It's just where it is. My mind, my body, and my spirit know what the poison is now.
Absolutely.
And, that's where my baseline is. Now, if I can just get off the ice cream every night, that's the next one. It's like, what happened to my abs? Oh, yeah, you like ice cream every night. Right. Okay.
Where they went.
Before we do some random questions, people want to connect with you. What's your easiest and favorite way?
Oh, well, I'm active on social media, just not 8 hours a day. But Joe Weatherford on Instagram or on Facebook. And then my website is recoveryremix.com or joeweatherford.com. So both will funnel to the same site, which is going to be live today.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm super excited.
So I got you at all these great things. Just hit 12 years sober, new site coming out, all this stuff.
No, it's good. It's this period of building again, and I'm one of those people, I've started over so many times, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I enjoy it because I'm not looking to crash and rebuild again, but I always enjoy the process of becoming the next version of myself.
Yeah. I that redefining, and I agree with you because I was asked the other day by my mentor that I was talking about earlier, and he's like, what do you really enjoy doing? I'm like, I love helping people launch something.
Yeah.
Like coming in with this and this new idea, and here it is, and formulate it and getting it out there. And I realized that's kind of things I tend to like about myself. Like, ooh, I found something new I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Let's go down that road a little bit and check it out. A lot of joy out of that. A lot of joy. All right, random question. Meal with any one person, living or not, who would they be and why?
That's such a great question. And there's so many people, but my absolute favorite human right now is Dr. Zach Bush. So he actually is, was a physician. Now his jam is more gut health, regenerating soil. I mean, he wears a million different hats, but I've heard him on so many different podcasts. He's actually very good friends with our friend TJ.
Oh, I'll be darned. Okay.
But when you listen to this man speak, it just opens my heart. Like there is something about him that I just exhale. And sometimes he's saying things that should actually elicit a different response. Like I was listening to a podcast with him not too long ago, and he was talking about these tribes, and I think they're Aboriginal tribes that consciously started breeding themselves out 30 years ago because they just know the 6th grade extinction is coming. So it's like, you should be terrified, but the way he talks about their death and the way they plant the bodies so that something better can grow in its place. And I mean, it's just magnificent. He is just a special human. And yeah, that's my answer. I would love to sit down and just hear him talk.
I'll have to check him out. Thank you. I've not been aware of him. And yeah, the conference at TJ Woodward. So you and I will be at a conference for people that, I've been talking about that. So that'll be a pretty cool experience. What's some of your favorite things about when you do these conference and you're going to do a presentation, right? I'm on a
Yeah.
panel, but you're doing a presentation.
I'm presenting, and my favorite thing is the people I meet. I mean, I met TJ at a conference a year ago that we both spoke at, and now he's, one of my dear friends. So bringing like-minded people together with the same purpose, the energy of that room, of everybody in there, like really looking to connect, to learn, to deepen, to be a service. It's so special, so getting to talk about sobriety as this gift. I love being able to share my story. Like I can't believe people pay me to talk. It's weird, but I love being able to do that and use all that pain to move people and to be able to connect with them and to learn from them as well. It's so special. So yeah, it's the people.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's gonna be an interesting experience for me. I've never sat on a panel about recovery, let alone media and recovery, which I believe is what we're going to be talking about. And
Nice.
so it'll be different. I was in radio for 20 years. Yeah, I did those things and all that. It's going to be so different. I don't think I was sober for any of them. So this is going to be wonderfully different. Best advice and worst advice you ever received?
Just do it. And that's the best and worst.
Following the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, I think it was Elizabeth Gilbert was giving this presentation once, and she was talking to a bunch of people that were all authors. And this one woman in the audience is like, I did the thing. I went all in. I quit my job. I used all my savings. I wrote this book and it didn't go anywhere. And look at me. And, the thing that Elizabeth said is jump, but make sure there's a net, And so I like that. It's like, yeah, do the thing, go all in.
Yeah.
Have a net underneath you. So
let's have a little rationale to our lives there.
Yeah, but it is important, like especially if you are feeling that stagnant energy in your life. It's like we are living, breathing, pulsating beings. We are not meant to be comfortable for too long, so I'm not saying create chaos by any means. Create passion. Moving to Mexico, it was like my brain now all the time is this is new and that's a new street and this is a new language. And but I purposefully did the biggest pattern interrupt I could do just to have a new experience. Obviously that's not available to everyone, but you can do it in little ways. Try that hobby, play that sport, go on that trip, learn that language, whatever it is that's available to you, mix it up, find something that lights you on fire, because we are not meant to be bored.
Yeah.
Bored is great. Get still, learn, get good at that, and get really good at mixing it up.
Yeah. I had someone that was recently on and they're like, oh my God, your team's amazing with the graphics and the social media. Tell them I said good job. And I'm like, well, you just did, because it's just me. And she's like, oh my God, wow. And I went, well, thank you very much. But it's the 10,000 plus hours that has been put in to get there. And I'm going to tell you, the vast majority of them were boring as hell. And it went back to the discipline.
Nice.
And above all, the curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, how can I do that? Ooh, I have this vision in my head. I've not seen anybody do it. I guess I get to break the rules.
Yes.
And it's good to break the rules sometimes. Not the law. Don't get me wrong. Trust me.
Sometimes. Some laws.
All right, I drive a little too fast every now and then, but I'm gonna tell you, handcuffs hurt, so don't go down that road, okay? And that wasn't out of fun either. So I think it's important. It's really important,
Yeah.
Be willing to break some of the molds.
yeah, get masterful at something. I love that. I mean, that's Maxim Gladwell, 10,000 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
It was mastery. And I love that message. Yeah, a lot of them sucked,
Yeah.
but look at what it created, and you put in that time, and now everybody gets to benefit from it. And it's constant creation and expansion of what's possible. And that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I ask you for the final thoughts, what's one thing you would tell your childhood self?
It's going to be okay.
Mm.
And it's not just the words, right? Because words matter, but it's the energy behind it. It's like the woman I am now, I know it. So I would tell her, but it's not about the words. It's about the feeling and the embodiment behind it of it is going to be okay. I didn't know that back then, and it was so scary. So scary. And I just think about myself as a child hearing that, what a different experience that would have been to have somebody that could really hold that space of like, it's going to be okay. You are going to be okay.
Have you ever had, I've had this vision of me now talking to my young self, like literally having a conversation. I'm not going to go, I don't want to cry today. Joe, anything you want to lend? Maybe somebody that's listening, if they themselves struggling, a loved one is, or I don't know, just some words of beautiful wisdom. You're such a wonderful person. And
Thank you. Okay, so there's two things. I just heard this on a podcast the other day and I thought it was brilliant. So I'm going to steal it. There's a show, Chopped, like a cooking show.
Yeah,
okay?
yes.
And so they give you a bunch of ingredients, but you don't know what you're going to get. And there's amazing ingredients, right? And then there's shit ingredients, right? like there's kale jerky.
Right.
And so it's like just this idea that you don't know what the ingredients you are going to get, but it is your job to make something really rad and delicious out of it. And that's actually the best chefs. The ones that get handed the worst and make something out of it.
Yeah.
That's who I want to know. That's where I want to eat. I want to sit at that table.
Yeah.
People that just go through life, boring. You know what I mean? It's like, good for you. That's amazing. But it's like, yeah, I want the edge. I want the depth. I want the grit, because it's grit and resilience are very different. Resilience is I will survive. And that's great because a lot of people don't even have that. But grit is I will enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like bring it, and that's, I love that. So that is the first thing. No matter what your ingredients are right now, make the most out of it. Make something delicious. The second thing too is, especially in our healing journey, sometimes I think that we really believe that we need to become lovable. And that is absolutely not true. Every single person listening, you are inherently lovable. You are here. That's how I know. And truth is always true, whether you believe it or not. So you are already inherently lovable. And you don't need to become what you already are. And I'll leave you with this. I love this. So when Michelangelo created the statue of David, it was like the most beautiful thing anybody had ever seen, right? And so they interviewed him and they said, how did you make that? And he said, it was easy. I just chipped away the parts that weren't angel. So it's like, as we're doing all this deep reflection, as we're looking at ourselves honestly and with compassion, remember that we are just chipping away what doesn't work, those old stories, those old behaviors. It's like you already are that.
Joe, thank you. It was so great to do in person. And for all you listening, remember, no outside solutions to inside problems and keep knocking doors down.
Knocking those minds, showing possible rhymes.